So we sit forward on the edge of the chair, and for most of us, we're probably able to feel our sits bones connecting with the chair. And the sits bones, those two little, they're called the ischial tuberosities, are a point at which the hamstrings plug in. And so we're sitting there, we're sitting here, and now we're breathing. And when we sit forward like this, it might be a wee bit easier to have the spine nice and long. And we just settle in with our breath. Perhaps being grateful in this moment that we don't need to mask in our own homes. Let's begin doing small circles. So we're warming up the hips, kind of rolling around the ischial tuberosities, the sits bones. And then gradually make the circle bigger. So we're warming up the whole pelvis now. And then we'll bring that to a pause. And we're going in the opposite direction, starting first with little circles, then slowly expanding the size of the circle until we're really rolling around, waking up our hip joints. So as we've spoken before, the hip joints move laterally as well as up and down. So this gets that lateral movement, waking them up that way. When we're walking, most of us are just doing this because most of us don't have a little wiggle going on. The wiggle is actually the hip joints moving laterally. We're going to stop, pause, find our breath again. Taking the right hand to the outside of the left leg, we're going to extend the left arm, and we're going to take a little bit of an extension into a side bend. So with that right hand anchored and the left arm reaching, and of course, we don't have to go above the head. If that doesn't feel good, we can come forward a little bit. What we're looking for is to feel expansion in the rib cage here. Draw the belly in and breathe. And then we release and switch sides, left hand to right thigh, extend and reach. And release. Sliding the hands forward. We're going to create a cat arch. So now we separate the shoulder blades in the back, make them nice and wide. Chin comes toward the heart. And then on the next out breath, we're going to come forward a little on the chair, lift the heart, lift the head. And then on the next out breath, we're going to slide back into our cat arch. Feel expansion in the back between the shoulder blades, chin to heart. On the next in breath, let's come up. And we'll come to neutral, taking both hands now to the right side, lift the heart, and take a twist looking over the right shoulder. Come back to center. Hands come to the left side. Heart lifts as we take a twist to the left, looking over the left shoulder. Back to center. And now we'll do a little rib cage circle. So we're seeing if we can find a way. The pelvis is probably going to move a little bit. Most of us are not belly dancers, but we're actually softening up the rib cage. It allows us to have more breath when a rib cage is softened. Switch directions. Notice how the body may move more easily in one direction than the other. And now we're going to pause and we come back to our breath. Since we're going to be doing standing postures that involve the knees, we're going to warm our knees up again now, up first. So what we're going to do, stay seated. I'm going to come to standing. Right above the knee, if you palpate around with your fingers, you're going to find a couple of spots that might be tight or tender, and we're going to massage those. So you're seated, and I can feel them more intensely seated than I can standing. So it's above the knee. Here's my kneecap right here. It's on either side of the kneecap. And we're just massaging right above the kneecap, on either side. Move your fingers around until you find the place that's tender. So these are reflexology points that can really help if knees become crabby. And then we go below the knee. So here's my kneecap. We're going below the knee and doing a mirror of up here down below. So we're going to massage that area now. So come on down, palpate around. One side may be sore. There may be no tenderness, but just bear with me. Some of you will have tender bits for sure. And now we're going to change sides. And we're going to come to the top of the other knee. And we're going to find those tender points. And we're going to breathe here. And then we come down below. So we're coming below the kneecap now and we're massaging. This should feel pretty good. And you might notice, as I do, that one side is more tender on the top and the other side's more tender underneath. And now we're going to pause and we're going to work up the inside of the leg. So we're coming about 2 fingers above the ankle bone. There's a channel there. We're just going to massage up that channel. And you'll find it's probably pretty tender. And we're coming all the way up into the meaty part of the calf muscle. And we're pressing there. Just using, you can use light pressure, especially if it's super tender. Excuse me, now we're coming to the other side. About 2 fingers above the ankle bone. We're going to start running up that channel of the leg. And maybe the closer you get to that calf bone, the more tender it is. And we're coming all the way up into the calf muscle in the meaty part of the calf, and we'll poke around in there until we find something tender. And then we're going to stop just for a moment. Notice the sensations in the legs with just that little amount of work. Maybe they feel a little more alive. We're going to come to standing now. And we're going to pause and we find our mountain. And find what feels best for you. Traditionally, mountain pose can be done with the feet together or right underneath the sits bones. But if it feels better to you to have a wider base, have a wider base. Do what feels best for your body. And now we come to Pada Bandha. And with Pada Bandha, we lift the toes. You'll notice the body rocks backward. And then we're going to come forward and dig the toes into the earth and watch the body lean forward. So we're following our breath here, breathing in and out. Or maybe it's out and in. You decide what feels best for you. I like the in when I'm leaning back, and I like the out breath when I come forward. And feel how the legs, with just this action in the feet, the legs become really engaged. We're going to pause here. We're going to take our hands into our back pockets or our pretend back pockets, and we're going to press the pelvis forward. So we're doing a counter stretch. This is a psoas stretch. And then allow the right side of the pelvis to come back and the left side comes forward. We look over the right shoulder. Come back to center. Switch sides. The left side of the pelvis tucks back. The right comes forward. We look over the left shoulder. And then we pause. We're going to do chair pose now, and we're going to start. I'm going to move my chair so I'm sideways to you for a visual. We're going to start by doing some almost chair sits. This is almost. So we have our feet probably about hip distance apart, or maybe a little wider if that feels better in your body. And then we scoot our bum back. Bring the hands to the heart and pretend like we're going to sit down. And then to rise out of this, we press our feet into the mat to come back up. Breathe in. And on the out breath, we sit back, but we don't sit all the way down. We're allowing ourselves to rise and settle, following our breath. The out breath is the settling. And then we come back up and we're going to pause. So that's the mechanics of doing Utkatasana, chair. When we're sitting back, we want to make sure that we can see our toes. So if your knees are coming forward like this, that's too much pressure on the knees. You control how deep you go. So that's how engaged the muscles around the knees are. And we're going to add one more element, and that is the inner thigh muscles. So we've got our feet about sits bone width apart, and we're going to imagine or actively take the inner thigh muscles and rotate them in toward the wall behind. Notice how when this happens, the knees start feeling super supported. Release that. And now try it again. The internal rotation of the upper thigh muscles. Now, we're going to take a little chair sit with that action. So, connect with the feet, feel stable on the feet, draw the thighs in toward each other, then aim them toward the wall behind. It's going to be a small movement, and then sit back like you're sitting in that chair. You might discover that you can't go as deep, but the knees feel much better. And then we press our feet into the ground to come to standing. Now, the other way we can activate that is by taking a block. I like to have it on the baby bear so it's not too wide. Squeeze the block, Hands to heart center, sit back like you're sitting in the chair. Make sure you can see your beautiful toenails, happily pedicured or not. Pause here, breathe here. We're squeezing the block or rotating our inner thighs toward the wall behind. We're pausing and allowing this posture to really get hot in our legs. So we're just settling in. And of course, at any time, if this is too much, come on up. And let's all press into the floor to come to standing. We'll set the block to the side. One of the things about chair is really doing our best to keep our upper body pretty vertical. It's not going to be totally vertical, but take a look at this. Do this for yourself. Lean the torso forward and look how it takes the energy out of the quadriceps. So we're working to strengthen the quadriceps, the muscles of independence. And so bringing the heart up just a little bit can really activate that, can activate the quadriceps. Are your legs getting hot now? Mine sure are. Now we're going to add the arms. So we're going to bring those arms shoulder height. You don't have to go beyond this. We're looking for shoulder, hip, ankle to have an alignment. Palms are facing each other. If you want to bracket the head with the arms, you can do that. But this is also accurate or appropriate. Breathing here. And now press into the feet and come on up. The arms sweep up. We're going to do a little back bend here. And of course, the arms can always be forward. They don't have to be above the head. And then we let the arms float down. So now we're going to do some flow work with this practice. We're going to go through this coupling breath to motion. Going to invite you, if you want to use a block, use a block. If you feel like I can keep that internal contraction of my thighs, my internal rotation, then you don't need the block. But we're going to do our best to keep these inner muscles activated. So you want to join me? We're going to go through a sequence now. We bring our feet to standing. We pause in mountain. The arms sweep up on an in-breath. On an out-breath, they float down as we sit back in chair, squeezing the block or turning the thighs to the wall behind. Feet are active. This is the out-breath. On the in-breath, we rise. And on the out-breath, we're going to come back into that chair. Keep the breath moving. Pause at any point if you feel like you've lost the capacity to internally rotate the thighs. Or at any point where this feels like, oh, this is a lot of work, because it is. Here we go. If you're going skiing, this is a good preparation for skiing. One more. Hands come to heart center. Let's shake it out. Now let's do a little balance work. So you can have a chair nearby as needed for balance. We're going to sit, we're going to do eagle legs with arms, with the hands at Anjali Mudra in prayer posture. So find your stance. It might be a little wider, a little narrower, what feels good. We're going to sit back in our chair. We're going to shift the weight to the left foot, and we're going to bring our right foot to tippy toes, Can pause right here, be in front of the foot, or maybe the knees cross. We're sitting here in chair. We're going to find 3 breaths here. Eagle legs. And then we come back out. Pause for a moment in mountain. Did you notice how gracefully I fell out of that? Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes with postures, we're going to fall out of them, but controlling the fall can be very helpful also. So now we're going to go to the other side. Hands come to heart center. Sit back in chair. We're going to come into eagle legs. Our variation, maybe it's tiptoes, maybe it's 1 foot in front, maybe we actually cross the leg. And I'm going to hold on to the chair today because my left knee said that's helpful. Pausing here, breathing, 3 breaths. And then we're going to come out of that. Press into the standing leg to come on up. And we're back in mountain. We're going to do that again on each side. So hands come to heart center. Sit back like you're sitting in a chair. Weight shifts, left leg, right leg comes up. And we're in eagle. If you find a point on the floor that doesn't move, it helps to stabilize postures. And then we're going to come out of that, press into the foot, come to standing, release the pose, return to mountain, lift the heart, find the breath. Hands come to heart center. We sit back like we're sitting in a chair. We're shifting weight now. Comes to the right side, left leg over. We find our posture here. 3 breaths. And then we're going to come out of that, come to standing, come to mountain, open the palms to externally rotate the shoulders. Now tuck the hands into the back pocket, press the pelvis forward. We're going to take that right hip forward, left shoulder and hip back, look over the left shoulder, 3 breaths here. So this is our counter pose to all of the squats that we just did. And then we come back to center, pelvis forward, 3 breaths here. And then we're going to come to the right side. Maybe there's a little soft bend in the knee. We're looking over the right shoulder, pressing that left side of the pelvis forward, 3 breaths. And then we come back to center, press the pelvis again for 3 breaths, a little back bend here. And then we come back to mountain, sweep the arms up, and we do a forward fold. Maybe coming to the chair or just coming halfway, hands behind the knees, torso parallel to the floor. Wag the tail just a little bit. To come out of this, we're going to sink our knees. We're bending now. Inner thighs rotate backwards. Arms float up. Press into the floor to rise. Nice, strong legs. And we pause here. I bet you got warmed up. We're going to come back to our seat for our time of Shavasana. So inviting you to have a seat. Find your breath here. Nice posture. Let the breath settle in. Today's thought is from Rumi. With life as short as a half taken breath, don't plant anything but love. We open our arms wide and we're going to gather all the blessings that already exist and we draw them in appreciation and gratitude into our hearts. And together we all say, Namaste.